Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I'm Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger, best known for his roles in many action movies during the 80s, has now become a top notch theologian. Yeah, he's now become a top notch theologian because he has said in an interview that heaven is a fantasy, does not exist, and that anyone who believes that type of rhetoric is a effing idiot. It's basically what he said. Yeah. So he is a theologian right now, and I don't know what school he's gone to. I don't know what school he's graduated from, but essentially they have taught him that there is no such thing as heaven, and anyone that teaches that is a idiot. So without further ado, let's get into this article and find out what exactly he said. And I'm going to give you my theological discourse on his view on the topic of heaven. So let's get right into this. So he says, it says, the Arnold Schwarzenegger believes there is no difference between heaven and hell because both are simple fantasies. Of course, this is the prelude to that. To his mind, once we die, that is the end. There is no afterlife, and, quote, anyone that tells you something else is an effing liar. Okay. The 75-year-old actor gave his views on personal faith to Danny DeVito, 78, during their shared discourse on the topic, What's in the Future for Us, for Interview magazine. According to People, the Terminator star said, "It reminds me of Howard Stern's question to me. Tell me, Governor, what happens to us when we die?" I said, "Nothing. You're 6 feet under. Anyone that tells you something else is an effing liar." I said, "We don't know what happens with the soul and all this spiritual stuff that I'm not an expert in, but I know that the body, as we see each other now, we will never see again ever again like that." Now, let me say something here. I got to quote. I got to speak on this. He says, "We don't know what happens with the soul and all this spiritual stuff that I'm not an expert in." Okay, if you're not an expert in this type of material, right? If you're not an expert in this, Mr. Schwarzenegger, then why should I believe anything you say about this? Because clearly he's giving just his opinion. I get it. But can you be for sure? Can you be for sure that we will never see each other again? Can you be sure of that, Mr. Schwarzenegger, since you're not he admitted he's not an expert in this. So if you're not an expert in it, even though he's giving his opinion, if you're not an expert in it, then why would you say that this is emphatically what it is? You just said, because he says in the second half of that paragraph, but I know that the body, as we see each other now, we will never see each other again like that. You just made a blanket statement that this will never happen. You'll never see. How do you know that? You're not an expert. These people contradict themselves. The former bodybuilder went further. He said death is a topic he feels uncomfortable with before adding that heaven in his mind is a, quote, fantasy. I find it interesting that death is uncomfortable for someone who doesn't believe in heaven. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's uncomfortable for you. I'm pretty sure. The former California governor said he had lost about 15 friends from back in his bodybuilding days in the last 2 decades, and the tragic reality of our finite time on earth forced him to shift his perspective on the possibility of an afterlife. When people talk about it, I will see them again in heaven. It sounds so good, but the reality, this is easy. This is his words apparently, but the reality is that we won't see each other again after we're gone. Here, once again, a man that admits that he's not an expert is basically speaking like he's an expert. Okay, we won't see each other, but he says we won't see each other again after we're gone. That's the sad part. I know people feel comfortable with death, but I don't. Elsewhere, the actor recently revealed the moment he, quote, crushed his ex-wife Maria Shrivers, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, heart by revealing he was the father of their housekeeper, Mildred Baini's son, Joseph. Maybe I'm not pronouncing her last name. Anyway, Schwarzenegger said Shriver, 67, confronted him in 2011 through their marriage counselor regarding his parentage, according to The Sun. More revelations are expected about his personal trials and tribulations in the new 3-part documentary Arnold, which began streaming on Netflix on Wednesday. An official synopsis says the docuseries, quote, chronicles Arnold Schwarzenegger's journey from the countryside of Austria to the highest echelons of the American dream, and contains interviews with Schwarzenegger along with friends, foes, co-stars, and observers. And that's the end of that article right there. Yeah, so I wanted to take up the mantle on this because I definitely wanted to speak on this. And I just wanted to say from the beginning, as I kind of alluded to in the introduction to this video, I've always been a great admirer of Arnold Schwarzenegger. There were two actors from the 80s. Those of us that know the 80s and our 80s child, there was two actors from the 80s that were the biggest icons of that period. And that was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. I mean, it was almost like in an indirect way, those two were competing with each other in terms of box office draws and box office finances and action movies, period. I mean, they made some of the best action movies in the 80s, period. These guys were true icons. So I have always admired Arnold Schwarzenegger for being that kind of icon for me. You know, I love his movies, okay? I'm not at all attacking his acting abilities. I mean, he's not the greatest actor, but I mean, he's not the worst actor neither, you know? He's an action figure, okay? So, but when you start delving into areas like the afterlife and speaking on topics that preachers and theologians speak on all the time, you even though you have a right to your opinion, you have a right to your opinion, but to go around saying to other people that teach this idea, which I believe is not an idea, I believe is an actual reality, that there's no afterlife, that there's no heaven, that there's no hell, and anyone that teaches that is an effing idiot or whatever the case may be, you are totally out of the ground, brother. Okay, all right, because you claim that you're not an expert in this type of stuff, and yet you speak like an expert. Now, some people say, well, okay, Mr. Bolin, what's your spin on it? Well, as an ordained minister, I have been studying it for a while, and I will say this, I have never seen heaven, and I have never seen hell. I believe by faith that the Bible teaches it, and I believe by faith that it is real. Now, here's my question. People may say, well, I can't, heaven doesn't exist because I don't see it. Hell doesn't exist because I don't see it. To me, that is the most asinine thing to ever say, because there are a lot of things that we can't see, but we still believe it exists. Stop playing games now. Can we see the air? The answer to that is no. But do we believe it exists? Yes, we do. And anyone that claims that it doesn't exist, hold your breath, and I guarantee you're going to want to breathe. You're going to want to breathe because you need that air, okay? Can we see atoms? Can we see subatomic particles? No, we cannot see atoms. No, we cannot see subatomic particles because they're so small to the naked eye, you need some other device to be able to at least detect them, okay? But scientists have found out that they exist. We can't physically see them, but we know they exist. Scientists say atoms and subatomic particles exist. And we watch this killing part. We believe that the scientists say that these subatomic particles that we cannot see exist. And we take their word by faith. See, that's faith right there, right? So we can't see subatomic particles, but we believe they exist. We can't see atoms, but we believe they exist. They exist. Can we see red blood cells? Can we see white blood cells? No, we cannot. We can see the blood, but we cannot see the cells. Why? Because they're so small that we can't detect them with the naked eye. Okay. However, scientists have certain instruments that enable them to magnify these very, very small, minute substances that enables us to see them. In other words, they have to create a different kind of eye, if you will, to be able to see things that you can't physically see. They say the air is made up of subatomic particles itself. Water is made up of subatomic particles. Everything is made up of subatomic particles. I'm not going to get into all of that, though. That's a whole nother story. But the point is that scientists have created what I would call a magnified eye to be able to see these small particles and enable us to know how they operate. The same principle in the spiritual realm. In order to be able to see heaven or to see in the spiritual realm, God has to illuminate your spiritual eyes. I'll give you a perfect example. In the Old Testament book of 1 Kings, the prophet Elijah was engaged in a battle with his protege, was engaged in some type of a feat with his protege, Elisha. And they were being pursued. And Elijah told Elisha, his protege, that there is more with us than with them. The enemy that was pursuing them was high on them, and they could physically see this enemy. But Elijah told Elisha, there is more with us than them. And Elisha didn't understand it because he couldn't physically see what Elijah was talking about. So God opened up Elisha's eyes, and Elisha saw chariots of fire all around them. In other words, God opened up his magnifying eye, so to speak, and allowed him to see in the other dimension what he couldn't see with the physical eye. So the idea that heaven doesn't exist is not accurate. How do you know? Here's another thing too. And I say this all the time with people that want to debate about heaven or hell, whether Jesus Christ is truly the only way, whatever. The only way you're going to really find out, after saying all this, the only way you're going to really find out whether or not heaven and hell exists and whether or not there's an afterlife is when you die. Maybe not say if. Why did I say if? Is when you die. Every individual on the face of this earth, every religion on the face of this earth, regardless of their different theologies, all believe that we're going to die. Even those that believe in reincarnation believe we're going to die, because in order for you to be reincarnated, what? Your physical body has to die. In order for your soul to transfer to another body, your physical body has to die first. So every religion and every individual believes we're going to die, including Dr. Schwarzenegger. Okay, every one of you believe we're going to die. And the only way you're going to find out whether or not there's a heaven or whether or not there's a hell is when you die. The problem with that worldview is that if the Bible is true, which I believe personally that it is, that there's only one way. And I'm just telling you guys what I believe, okay? We ain't going to have no debate about it. We can debate about it all. I'm not going to get into all that. Everybody has their own different beliefs. But I believe from a Christian perspective and from Christian theology that Jesus is the only way to get to God. That if you reject the offer of salvation in Christ Jesus according to what the Bible teaches, okay, then you will be lost. Okay. Having said that, when we all die and we find out that there is a heaven and that there is a hell, you ain't going to come back from that. So it would more likely be to your benefit, or his benefit rather, since we dealing with Arnold Schwarzenegger's assessment, his theological assessment of whether or not heaven exists. It would be to his advantage to maybe dig a little bit deeper into the biblical synopsis of whether or not heaven exists. Maybe you might want to talk to some theologians or Bible scholars that dug a little bit deeper into the mysteries of heaven, okay, before you make that broad statement. Because the problem with statements like that coming from celebrities that are well liked is that people, and I hate to say this, but it's true, a significant number of people are so dumbed down that they'll believe anything these celebrities say because they like him. Oh, I like him. He's probably right. He's right. Who? Really? In what way? In what way? Once again, this goes back to this idea of I don't see it, so it must not exist. Come on, man. There's a lot of things we don't see. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We just don't have the eyes to be able to see them. They're too small to the naked eye. So scientists have created a new form of eye called microscopes, okay, that are able to assess the realm that we can't see. Same principle when it comes to the spiritual realm. God has to illuminate your spiritual eyes in order for you to see into the spiritual realm. But at the end of the day, we're going to all die. We're going to all die, and we're going to all have to deal with whether or not there's an afterlife or not. That's the only way we're going to find out. That's the only way we're going to find out. Now, as for me, I believe heaven exists. I believe hell exists. When I gave my life to Jesus Christ at the age of 16, it wasn't a religious thing. It wasn't, well, this person doing something, this person, and I came into a sense of knowledge. And no. It wasn't illumination. It wasn't reformation. It was transformation. God literally changed me from the inside and placed a new nature within me. Now, wasn't perfect and not perfect now, but I know that everything I do because God placed within me a desire to please him. I've been born again, just like Jesus said in St. John, the 3rd chapter, except a man be born again, he cannot enter to the kingdom of God. I was transformed, and that transformation led to where I am today. And I believe by faith that there's a heaven and a hell. And if I'm wrong that there's no heaven and hell, then I don't have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. The Christians that teach this and have been teaching this for I don't know how long have nothing to lose. The only thing Christians have to lose is face and embarrassment. They're going to have to live with the embarrassment that there's no heaven, that there's no hell, that there's no afterlife. You just die and you get absorbed into the earth and the oneness of the galaxy or whatever. And that's it. The only thing we have to deal with is saving face. But if there is a heaven and if there is a hell, like we as Christians believe the Bible teaches, and you die, Mr. Schwarzenegger, without accepting the offer that God has given you through Christ Jesus, and you choose to reject that offer, you're going to have to deal with the reality of the afterlife. Okay? Yeah, you're going to have to deal with that reality. So whatever, Dr. Schwarzenegger, I mean, if you feel like everybody that teaches this type of stuff is effing idiots, then I'm just an effing idiot. And I'll be an effing idiot till the day I die. I don't mind being an idiot for God. I've been an idiot for God since I've been 16 years old, and I'm doing okay. I may have had my challenges, may have had my ups and downs, like every human being on this face of this earth has. But I'm a happy idiot. I'm a joy-filled idiot. I'm a peaceful idiot. And when I say peaceful, I'm not talking about trying to be peaceful with everyone else, because people aren't always peaceful with you. I'm talking about the inner peace that comes from a right relationship with God through Jesus Christ. I'm at peace on the inside, and people that work around me, they know it. I'm not going crazy over the crazy stuff that's going on around me. I may get angry, but I get angry because people choose to act a fool. In light of all the knowledge that you can get, you still choose to go the wrong way. You an idiot. That's what I get upset with. But I'm good. I'm secure. I am secure. But Dr. Arnold Schwarzenegger said that he's fearful of death. He's fearful of the afterlife. But when you have a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ, you ain't fearful. You're not fearful of the afterlife because you know where you're going. But since he said there is no heaven and there is no hell, what you fearing? What you fearful for, bro? What you fearing? I'm just saying, what are you fearing, sir? I always admired him, but his assessment here is totally off the hook. You're not an expert in this, sir. So it's probably not a good idea to get in an interview before perhaps millions of people and make that statement that people that teach this are idiots. I'm just saying. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.